All right, I want to bring in three guests now to talk about politics and protests. Muhammad Ali is a Liberal commentator, Andrew Brander is a Conservative commentator, and Nikki Hill is an NDP commentator. It's good to see you all. Thanks for being here. Andrew, if I can, let me start with you and Conservative leadership politics. It's been 24 hours now since the Conservative caucus voted out Erin O'Toole as party leader. Now the conversation's turning to what the Conservative Party actually wants to be and how a new leader can restore unity to a party of factions. So how can it be done?
Well, look, I think the selection of Candice Bergen as an interim leader is a huge step towards party unity, towards bringing the caucus together. Let's remember, Candice had a significant role in the leadership team under Andrew Scheer. She had a significant role under the leadership team of Erin O'Toole, which proves she's a bridge builder. She's someone that can work with sort of both sides of those two aspects of the party and be respected in that. Going forward, I think she's going to use her term, however long or short the Leadership Election Committee decides that to be, to work on a lot of the problems that were laid out in the Cummings report.
Right, but she's not running for the permanent leader. Somebody else is going to do that. What do they get if they win?
That's right. That's right. Well, hopefully, what we can't do as a party is waste the time between now and when the leadership happens. And what happened last time, you'll remember, is that Andrew Scheer stayed in place. And in large part, that was lost time. And this is the problem that Erin O'Toole inherited when he became leader, because there was such a short runway. He only had a year between the time he was elected leader. So we just need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And that work can be done through an interim leader in the process.
Nikki Hill, let me turn to you. What are your thoughts on what's happened to Erin O'Toole here, what's going on inside the Conservative Party, and what it might mean for the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been going on for months. I feel like towards the end of the election in the summer, that when Erin O'Toole spent a little bit less time on the campaign, we were all speculating as to where he went and to where some of his policy choices were taking the party. So I think, when you're leading a party, I think understanding what the value of that party is critical. So who's going to be stepping into a role in which that's unclear? I've been, watching and listening. We don't always get that snapshot into what's happening behind closed doors in parties. And we're certainly hearing a lot from Conservative MPs and insiders this past couple of days about the gamut of issues that could have led to Erin O'Toole's demise here. And they're ranging everywhere from guns and climate to conversion therapy, and it's hard to really, pin down what's going on in this party and where they need to be going next for Canadians to understand what they value. Okay.
Mohammed, look, we're talking about Conservatives now, but they've had back-to-back one-and-done leaders now, Scheer and O'Toole, gone after one election. But the Liberals had Stéphane Dion and Michael Ignatieff. They were also one-and-done. So what do you think Conservatives have to come to terms with as they get set to pick a new leader again?
I think they need to come to terms with what is the core policy areas that they want to continue to push forward, and how are they going to be appealing to urban voters, because they have been largely shut out across the country, and in fact started losing some in Alberta that they've long held. So they need to come together once again. I mean, from a Liberals' perspective, it's great. The chaos is great for the Liberal government because a disorganized opposition is helpful, and to be very blunt. And so they need to come together and show unity, but on some core fundamentals, not have everyone kind of go on their own and do their own thing and hold their own press conference without the leadership being aware of it. So, some leadership, some continuity and unity, I think that's a key thing that this party needs.
All right, we're going to have lots of time to revisit these issues over months to come when this leadership race gets underway. But Andrew, I want to shift the conversation out of these ongoing protests on Parliament Hill. Mohammed talked about chaos. Let's talk about chaos. These protests continues, and there is a connection perhaps. Some Conservatives have pointed to Erin O'Toole's flip-flopping on the meeting with protesters or not, may have been part of his undoing. Look, Conservative politicians have been supporting the truckers, taking their pictures with them. The Prime Minister has condemned them and refuses to meet with them or consider their demands. Jagmeet Singh's taken largely the same position. I guess what I'm wondering at this point is, how this gets resolved, and what is the role here of our political leaders in trying to bring this to some kind of a conclusion?
Well, two things. One, I think the first role of any government is that every Canadian, despite what opinions or views they may hold, should be entitled to have a government that listens to them. And the fact that the Liberals have refused to do that is certainly, Mohammed, my good friend, talks about unity, but you're not really seeing that as a value that's being espoused by this current government. The second thing I would say, we've seen a lot of, and I get the fact that a lot of people are frustrated right now. I feel terrible for everyone who lives in downtown Ottawa having to deal with that. Move to Toronto if you like; it's a better city.
Well, Toronto's probably going to see the protest this weekend too. So,
and to be honest, I live at King and John, and there is a anti-vax protest that walks by every Saturday. So, all this to say, there is a place that the government needs to come to the table, needs to acknowledge, and not be dismissive and not inflame. And the concerns that I'm seeing from the NDP leader at Queen's Park, the municipal politicians in Ottawa calling these people is just not helpful.
All right, let me get your view, Nikki, in the context of, there's, they say they want to meet with the federal leaders, perhaps the Prime Minister or others, to try and have their demands met. But I guess a lot of people wonder, what's the value of a meeting if the other side says, look, the bottom line is you need to meet these demands and end all vaccine mandates, or you can't satisfy us?
Yeah, I mean, the organizers had a press conference earlier, I'm sure we all saw, and that was exactly the message, is they won't move until that is the case and mandates are ended. And I think, we are going to see rallies in Toronto this week. We certainly saw them here in BC last weekend, so that's continuing. I think there's a lot of threads here that we need to pull, and it's hard to just address the fact that, organizers standing up today and saying that what's core to them leaving Ottawa will be the end of mandates, which we all know jurisdiction-wise and in terms of what governments are actually, and the populace, which is high vaccination rates here in Canada, is willing to see governments adjust. So I think, in some threads that we're continuing to pull as we look at this convoy, we do really need to address, and I think the Prime Minister and Jagmeet Singh and many others are being very clear that we are not going to tolerate hate as a country. But we also need to look at what is bringing people out across the country to talk about why they want mandates ended. And some of that is the challenges around affordability, concerns around the family. I'm not actually sure, after seeing behavior, a lot of these protesters in the past few days, and in terms of challenging people and safety without masks and going into homeless shelters and the risks that's happening, people will agree with that anymore.
Okay, Mohammed, let me finish on you here. What do you believe the obligation should be for the Prime Minister here? Lots of pressure on him to at least have a dialogue with these protesters, refusing to do that, the Prime Minister is. Why is that the right position?
Look, they put out a request for basically the government to be overthrown. They've asked for mandates to be ended across and restrictions, which are provincial and municipal. So they're also targeting the wrong person here. They should be going to Toronto. They should be going to Victoria. They should be going to Edmonton, where provincial governments have that jurisdiction. Now, the Prime Minister is not wrong when a number of these people, and I live here in Ottawa right now, they are selling Stars of David. They are pushing out anti-Semitic rhetoric. They're harassing men and women and children who are just walking around just innocently and going to homeless shelters. So to legitimize the behavior, the Prime Minister represents the entire country, but also has to understand when there are people that are choosing to break the law and be disruptive and aggressive with ordinary people. Like, there's protests that happen all the time in Ottawa. Right. And you don't have one of the biggest malls in the country shut down for a week. You don't have stores feeling unsafe. You have schools being shut down. That's what's happening here. And a failure to acknowledge by some of these conservative MPs who choose immediately after Erin O'Toole is ousted to go take photos with some of these people. is a clear example of the tone deafness from that party.
All right,
they wouldn't have gone out to talk to Indigenous protesters. So I think there needs to be an understanding that they have to work. They have to work with everybody, but they have to understand that, like, if you're going to choose this hateful rhetoric, this tone and treatment of others in this manner, you're not going to get a lot of sympathetic ears. I got
to jump in. I have to leave it at that. Time is short tonight, but I want to thank you all for joining me to talk about this. And protesters say they're not going anywhere, and we're likely to see them spread to different cities this weekend. So lots to watch for and to comment at another time. Thank you all for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Be safe, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.